곳곳에서 들려오는 여러 가지 뉴스를 들을 때마다 굉장히 걱정스럽고 늘 생각했어요. 파머 선생님이 얼마나 지금 마음이 아프실까 이런 걱정을 했습니다. 그래서 첫 번째 질문으로 드리겠습니다. 비통한 자들을 위한 정치학 초판이 2011년에 출판되었습니다. 한국에서도 많은 독자들이 이렇게 읽었는데요. 그 책이 나온 지 이제 13년 만에 2024년에 개정판이 나왔습니다. 이 책을 개정하게 된 그런 계기나 상황이 있는지 여쭙고 싶습니다.
Yes, I wrote the Healing the Heart of Democracy in 2011. I was already seeing the struggle that was going on in our democracy, really around embracing diversity, racial diversity, religious diversity, diversity of national origin, diversity in sexual orientation, diversity in political beliefs. Already in 2011, I was seeing a backlash to the election of our first Black president, Barack Obama, and coming out from under rocks in this country was all kinds of racism and homophobia and anti-Muslim sentiment in the wake of 9/11. And every bit of it seemed to me to be an insult to the founders of this country, an insult to all of us who understand that democracy is about the creative potentials of human diversity. We know in the natural world that ecological diversity is critical to an ecosystem surviving and thriving. It's precisely the diversity of plant and animal life that make the natural world resilient and inventive and resistant to calamities. And when we lose ecological diversity, we get certain features of the climate crisis we're in today. Well, the same thing is true of human diversity in democracy. We need that diversity to stimulate creativity. We need that diversity to give us resilience. We need that diversity in order to grow in a world that is amazingly and beautifully diverse. But what I saw in 2011 in this country was the rise of profound fear around diversity. And then I saw the rise of politicians in our Republican Party especially, who were exploiting the fear of diversity in order to gain votes. It's the oldest political trick in the book, to make us afraid of one another across our creative lines of difference in order to divide and conquer us. I don't know if that's a familiar phrase in Korea, but certainly in American political science, the idea of divide and conquer has been around for a long time. And it's a very accurate description of how our current president first rose to power in his first time in office, elected in 2016 and serving until 2020. And now, after 4 years out of office, back in office again, this time with his authoritarian agenda ramped up on steroids. exponentially increased with the help of Project 2025, which is a chilling blueprint for an authoritarian takeover. And all of it, of course, is in service of the wealth and power of just a few people, while many, many in our society, the most vulnerable among us, the needy, the most needy among us, go unattended, uncared for. As the old saying goes, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So this is an existential crisis. It is fueled in part by our fear of diversity. It is fueled in part by political leaders who manipulate that fear for their own selfish ends. And the only response possible is from we, the people. The only containment on authoritarianism is resistance and non-cooperation, well-organized resistance and non-cooperation. So the book was issued in a new edition a year or two ago because all of that was clearly underway. And in the meantime, the pandemic had come along and further weakened our social fabric, further weakened our network of relationships on which democracy is so heavily dependent. In earlier books published years ago, I wrote about what I called the public life or the pre-political layer of our society, which are all of those ways in which we gather together in families, in neighborhoods, in public spaces, in schools, in religious communities, in voluntary organizations of many sorts, all of the ways we gather together to weave the civil society, to weave the network of relationships that makes democracy possible and that can call democracy back when leaders come along to exploit our differences. All of this was so badly broken down by the pandemic that historical tragedy, I think, is part of what we're dealing with today. But that's why the book needed a revision and a revival. And I'm happy to say that it is drawing readers and study groups in this country as well as in Korea in an effort to help people understand the situation we're in and to give them some practical tools for dealing with it.